Hello world. This is a completely different video for me. It's a complete departure from the kind of stuff that I normally put on here. And I think in many ways this is my most interesting video yet, because you can actually tell people's personality from their handwriting. And a lot of people who know me will have had their handwriting analysed by me. So this is, I suppose, a bit of a comeback video in that you can not only see my handwriting, because it's all over this document here, but also you'll get to know how it's done. I think out of all the handwriting analysts on YouTube and stuff like that, and other books and things, I'm the only one, I think, that's actually done a video where you can see my writing, because this was all done with an Apple Pencil. It's not quite the same as writing with a normal pen on a piece of paper. The best position to write is in a straight back chair on a table with your feet on the floor. And I was writing on an iPad with an Apple Pencil, which is slightly unfamiliar, and most of the time I was lying on the sofa or on my bed or something and writing this out. It's been a huge amount of work, it has to be said, to do this. Not only the actual preparation of the video and this presentation, but also I've had numerous conversations with people where what I've suggested has been either confirmed or denied, and I will tell you throughout this video where perhaps I'm slightly unsure of what things mean. But you'll hear this word caution, and you'll see it written in red a lot throughout this document. But the biggest caution is that whichever handwriting analysts you look at, either through books or through YouTube or something like that, they all seem to have slightly different opinions on things. The two that I look at the most and respect the most are a gentleman called Bart Baggett. He's an American guy. He's got a channel, I think it's called the handwritinguniversity.com, and he tends to take a more sensationalist approach. In other words, is this person a homicidal serial killer approach to things, but also a psychological approach, a very there's a very sympathetic approach there, because what you can't do, you're dealing with people, and what you can't do is completely tear them to pieces over one or two letters in their writing. Fair enough, for a personality trait to show in writing at all, it has to be quite a big personality trait. It has to be, you know, quite glaring and obvious in their personality. Otherwise it won't show. But there could be any number of reasons why. And the thing that he emphasises more than anything else is this thing called trait stacking. In other words, you can't just look at one letter and analyse someone's personality. You have to look at the whole story of what their writing's telling you, and if possible, have a conversation with them and find out what's really going on in their life, and then say, oh yes, that is showing up in your writing because you do such and such a thing. The other chap that I like is a chap called Zubin Vervaina. His approach is slightly more analytical, it's more mathematical in a way. He would say it's based on mathematics, tends to be more to do with the health of the body. He tends to, so far, I mean, he has got a YouTube channel. His work has been basically taking each letter separately of the alphabet, whereas I think that you need to take a more holistic approach, and this is why I'm kind of combining these two people, whose links I'll try and remember to put in the description, with other things that I've read about it in the past, and also what I've noted as an educator, as a teacher. Okay, so without further ado, we won't look at this page any longer, we'll carry on. By the way, because this was done in some software on my iPad, it hasn't quite worked how I wanted it to in terms of transferring it over to my Mac and into a PDF. I would have liked these pages separate, okay, because you could read all this in the time that it takes me just to talk about the first thing. But the reason why we write is an urge and a need to communicate with other people. And what goes on is that we think a thought in our mind, remember to get bin bags and loo roll, and then that translates itself into letters on a page to remind us or to get our message across. Not only does the thing that we want to write end up on the page, but also far more subtle messages about ourselves. It's why it's far more personal than tapping messages away on an iPad, hitting that heart button, or typing away on a computer. If you want to send a message to someone you love, the chances are that you won't even be thinking about typing it out. You'll be thinking about getting a lovely piece of heart note paper and writing them your message, and that will express far more of your personality through the hidden, I suppose, in quotes, underlying things that are going on in your mind at the time. If you really love someone, it will show up in your writing. And I suppose this heading about why write is kind of lamenting the fact that people don't write every day now. In the past, and I'm only looking at within my lifetime, so 20 odd years ago maybe, 20, even 15, 10 years ago even, people picking up pens and paper was far more common than it is nowadays. Because with me, even my shopping list, I can tap it into notes on my iPhone and take that with me. But it is a dying art, and it needs to not be treated as such. Even in the educational field, there are teachers that think that there are far more important things than people's handwriting. Yes, there may well be, but that doesn't mean to say that handwriting is not important. Not just because we want to look neat on a page, but because of those messages that are coming out and the fact that this is our personality that is being expressed. And you can't do that with tapping away into a computer. Okay, and on that same subject, I think I heard this right. I don't think I was dreaming, but apparently in American schools, joined up writing in many states is not taught. Cursive writing, as it were, is not taught. And in fact, actually handwriting as a subject is not compulsory after 2nd grade. And the argument against this, as a wise person of the internet once said, if you stop teaching writing at 2nd grade, you will always write like a 2nd grader. There are enormous amount of advantages to writing in joined up, cursive writing, as opposed to a printed script. Not least, your thoughts become far more connected. You start to link things and make links between subjects and ideas far more easily than someone who doesn't write in that fluid way. One of the things you might see me or hear me talking about today is a thing called upstrokes. These are letter leaders. Have a look at my U just here in the word urge. That line going up to join the U is sort of a curvy diagonal, or on my T here, that's called an upstroke or a letter leader. And those signify an urge to give to others. And they also have a slight nod at the past. As long as they're kept in a reasonable proportion, it's a healthy nod at the past. Huge, long, great upstrokes, slightly unhealthy. But it's a nod at the past in terms of wanting to then give out to your community. And you'll see how that kind of works as we go on. So why do we analyse? It's fun. It's a party trick, if you like. Be careful. Cautionary notes here. Try and keep it private. Don't do a great big in-depth analysis. Even the little paragraph, which I'm going to suggest you write in a minute, even that in-depth paragraph is too much for you're enjoying a few glasses of wine amongst friends. Get them to write the words 2 magpies in lowercase and sign it. And that will give you enough kind of superfluous traits about a person to astound and amaze them at a party. If you really want to find out what is making someone tick, you could use a sentence like this. You could even look at their own handwriting. But the advantage of using a sentence or a mini paragraph like on my try it page opposite here is that certain letters appear more than once, certain combinations of letters appear more than once. While we're talking about combinations of letters, it doesn't matter what language you speak. In all languages, even languages that don't use Western 26-letter alphabet, you can decipher someone's handwriting if you understand that letter. It's the strokes and the patterns of the strokes that are the important thing. But in a different language, There are the one that really strikes me at the moment and comes to mind is this TH, like the th sounds that we have in English. It's not very common in other languages, but if you can find a different sentence for them to write in your language that has that TH in it, and preferably a silly sentence because it is fun, then I would urge you to use that. It can be therapy, as I've already mentioned. If there's a particular personality trait that you would like to change, for example, your self-esteem or your confidence, then changing one or two parts of your handwriting might be a way forward. It's also very useful if you're going to employ somebody, and I don't mean in the scandalous way of, oh God, I hope I haven't hired a rapist, but more in terms of, in my operation that I run here, where would this person best fit in? And it can be used in forensic science. It can't be taken to court and used as evidence, but it can be used in trying to decipher the truth, trying to decipher what really happened. And there have been some quite miraculous stories where people have looked at handwriting to find out who is likely, and it's only likely, who is likely to be telling the truth, who is likely to have something to hide, and then you can look into it further and see whether or not that something to hide was really important or whether or not it's secondary. Okay, the cautionary notes, I think I've kind of gone over it really. You are not out to destroy people, so be very careful. And where I have put the word caution, it means look for other bits of evidence in the writing. Be careful how you say it to people, if you say it at all, if you dare say it at all. And this thing called trait stacking, which again I've mentioned, it's looking at a holistic sense of the writing, looking at all the aspects of the writing and trying to put together the personality rather than just isolating one letter or one pattern of letters. Okay, even to decipher whether someone is likely to be violent, you need at least, I think it's 3 or 5 traits to be showing up clearly in the writing. Okay, so without further ado, a real pen and blank paper. When I say blank paper, I mean unlined paper, if you can possibly get it. Okay, simply because you can tell whether someone's an optimist or a pessimist by using blank unlined paper. Use your normal handwriting, don't try and copy mine here, and your normal signature. My writing is kind of a mix between what I taught children for the last 20 years and my normal scrawl. Okay, and what you see here is my teacher's writing. Okay, so this Dear Marky P, obviously, for me, now, trying this out, you can write Dear Marky P. But if they're writing to you and your name's Wanda, get them to write Dear Wanda, or Dear Mavis, or Doris. Use your nouns. I credit you with having brains. Yeah. You can adapt that if once you get a little bit more proficient, a bit more used to it, you can change those sentences. Another one is a famous person once said, you do need the word famous in there. There is a reason. But you do need that word famous in there, and you need a P, so person. And you can change that to my very elegant mother just sat upon 9 porcupines, if you wish. Now please analyse me. If you want them to put an X in there, now please analyse my handwriting example. Maybe it's so that you've got another H in there, because H's are quite useful. But yeah, my very elegant mother just sat upon 9 porcupines is the order in which you can remember the names of the planets. Mars, Venus, Earth, and so on. So yeah, that might help you remember that sentence. When children are taught to write, they're taught 3 sames. Same size, in which we're talking about the zones and the proportion of your writing. Are the tall letters really tall? Are letters that are supposed to go under the line, do they really go under the line? I used to joke with my 5-year-olds. I used to say children are scared to write under the line. And you know, I've just said use a piece of blank paper. You may have to imagine that line. But essentially, The middle-sized letters, like A, E, C, and so on, that are supposed to sit on the line and be halfway up the line, those should be in proportion to tall letters and to letters that go under the line. Okay, so that's that proportion there. Same slant. Does it go forwards? Does it go backwards? Same spacing. So that some words aren't 10 miles away from others while others are really close. Okay, so those three sames are first things to bear in mind, and you'll find out a little bit more about what those mean as we go along. Okay, strokes in handwriting, that's pretty self-explanatory there. Strokes that go from right to left signify the past, the other way around is the future, and the past is also looking inward, looking towards me. The future looks towards others as well. As I said before, giving and mindfulness, being thankful. Upstrokes, downstrokes signify what your attitude towards taking things are. So a little bit more about these zones. Now the red lines here, imagine that they're the lines in your book. I've done a dotted line to show where that halfway is here. Sorry, it's a bit untidy here. It's the best I could do. I have the upper zone, and that signifies your guiding principles, as it were, your moral values. Are your decisions guided by a high set of principles? The middle is your day-to-day struggle, survival, your day-to-day life. The mundane, you all know how to get yourself dressed. It's a mundane kind of thing that we just do without thinking. Actions like driving, even writing itself, making a cup of coffee, all these things that we just learn to do, and then once we've learnt that skill, we don't have to think about it anymore. So that's our day-to-day existence, it's our day-to-day survival. Okay, and then the lower zone is your base urges, relationships. For adults, that will also include your sex life, money, things like that. So there's an example of middle zone writing. You can see that hardly anything, in fact, only the dot on my eye here, even ventures anywhere near that upper zone. And you'd be very surprised how many people that only learn printing never quite get that proportion right of the upper, middle and lower zones. Okay, I say the word right. As I say, there is no real right or wrong in handwriting, but middle zone writing has a slight disadvantage in that people, because they're so focused on how do I get by from day to day, how am I going to get the kids to school, how am I going to fit in my yoga and also make the sandwiches for tomorrow. It's dominated by the practical problems of today, and those are the things that feed your decisions. You're not looking up above to anything spiritual or highbrow in determining your daily life. For example, I will not have Sky TV in my house. I haven't had it in my house for nearly 10 years, and I won't have it in my house because I despise the values that Rupert Murdoch stands for example. That's just perhaps like one thing that has an impact on my life. My principles, my sense of right and wrong is offended by this person. You know, there are certain brands like that I will avoid in the shops as well. Those people are likely to have more prominent upper zones. And then you have upper zone writing here, which shows you how these people, their heads are in the stars. Their mind is always on the next great thing that they're going to achieve, and you know, the latest developments in science and stuff like that. And these people will forget to change their pants in the morning. You know, there's really very little kind of concern for their own kind of day-to-day existence. They're up in the clouds all the time, and that's, you know, that's that really prominent upper zone. You can see that these medium-sized letters, like the word zone there, don't even come up to the halfway point. The most healthy is, you know, again, this is the rhyme we used to teach our kids: tall letters tall, small letters small. As you can see, I've really messed that up a little bit there, but it gives the idea that the letters such as A, E, R, S, and so on, they are halfway up the line. Any ascenders, that's the tall letters, they should be touching the top and the bottom of the line. I apologise for my green L here, okay? But tall letters tall, small letters small, and descenders, i.e. letters like Y and G, should also be in proportion to the overall size of the writing. So it's not talking about whether your writing's big or small, it's just, is it in proportion? Is it in proportion? And then we have this thing called the slant, and again, that's pretty obvious. I'm not quite sure what that tick's doing there, but yeah, whatever. Okay, so, or forward slanting writing signifies someone that is more outgoing. I once fell into a trap. Well, it wasn't really a trap, I just dug a hole for myself. A friend of mine gave me a friend of theirs writing something that they'd written to him in the 90s or something while he was at uni. So, you know, this is a very old piece of writing, completely detached, whatever. And he had forward slanting writing. And I said, yeah, this person's quite outgoing, blah, 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 blah. And he said, well, actually, no, he's not. He's really shy. But maybe if they're writing to him, and again, you know, sometimes writing is only a snapshot of their feelings at the time. And maybe his writing sloped forward a little way because he felt that he was communicating something quite important with a friend that he felt some kind of warmth and rapport with. And then your writing is going to come forward, okay? Writing that slants backwards is emotionally withdrawn. I've heard these people say that for left-handers, it's the other way round, but that's rare, I think. In most people's cases, slants to the right, it's a more outgoing person. Slants to the left, it's a more emotionally withdrawn person. But as I say, there are reasons, and this is why you can't just take one trait in someone's writing and judge their whole life by that. You have to look at what else is going on there in the writing. Okay, someone that's writing straight up is a balance. These people tend to be very logical. Okay, uniformity, rules, I've put there in quotes. There is a book written by me called Rules. It's my rule book. Whilst you are under my roof, this is me being very flippant here, whilst you are under my roof, my child, then you will obey those rules. You know, do what you want when you've got your own house, kind of thing. While you're under my roof, these are the rules. These are people, yeah, they do live by the book. They might not necessarily be the most receptive to differing opinions and changes and things. They may even be classed as slightly old-fashioned, maybe not really wanting to move with the times, but usually very highly principled people. I've said here, you know, there's also a great attention to detail. These people check the gas meter every week to see how much gas they've used, keep their electricity bills and so on, and they're usually very organised as well. They will have a filing system. They'll keep their wardrobe tidy and that sort of thing. How people cope with errors is another thing that you can use if they do make an error. Okay, for example, where here, a single line through, so that you can see the mistake that they made, it's transparent, and then they correct it. That's someone who admits to their mistakes, throws their hands up, says, yeah, fine, I got it wrong, and now I'd like to put it right. Okay, this is not like the PPI scandal, where it took years for the banks to be found out, and once they've been found out, then you had to claim it yourself, rather than them looking back and saying, oh yeah, we diddled everyone out of their money, we best trace every single person that we've done that to and return them their money forthwith. No, you had to go and get it yourself. Okay, so, you know, that's not that kind of error. You know, these are people that are transparent, you know. Here, whacking great scribble. If they tell you a lie, you'll see through it straight away. These are people that probably couldn't convincingly conduct an out-of-partnership affair with somebody else because they know they're going to be found out. Okay, and you can see that the way I've corrected that is also quite frustrated there, because that scribble is frustrated. These people, you know, they don't like making mistakes. They don't like being found out either. Okay, so they're not particularly good liars. They're quite vulnerable people. And here's a nice little cover-uppy thing here. Look, I've misspelt the word cover, so I've gone over and corrected it, and so on. And that's someone who hides mistakes. These are people that really do not like to be seen as struggling. In school, for example, you know, it's the classic one of, I could never spell, so I used to copy people on spelling tests. You develop these little covert strategies for helping you cope when you're struggling. You will be found out eventually, but yeah, this is it's I suppose in a way it's a little bit more, in quotes, sneaky, but you've got to be charitable again. You know, if someone is struggling, it's quite right that, you know, they should find ways of coping with it. The same way that if you've got a piece of hi-fi equipment, for my hi-fi fans that are watching this, if you've got a piece of hi-fi equipment and you don't know which lead goes where, you're going to colour code it, aren't you? And it's that kind of making up for a deficiency, something you don't understand, by finding your little ways around it. So yeah, wavy writing. These are usually very kind and fluffy people. Take a while to cotton on to things. In terms of learning and stuff like that, they're quite sort of, you know, methodical. You can't teach them to multiply before they learn how to add up, because they just won't get it. Whereas the more up and down, easy-zaggy person can jump from here to there, can start to make connections, be very analytical, but they may well forget things. You know, whilst they're hot for it, they'll be jumping around, making connections here, there, everywhere, whatever. Our lovely wavy person may take a little while over things, but they'll remember it. And they'll remember what they were taught at school and that sort of thing, you know. This person here, the doctor's handwriting. Doctors, for example, are often accused of having illegible writing. And again, you can't judge them. These are people that are responsible for people's lives. If they're prescribing a tablet and it kills somebody, they're in trouble. You know, if they see an illness that might be distressing to them, unless they've got ways of protecting themselves, then they will not cope. And so there is this kind of, you know, the more illegible, the less of myself that I'm willing to put forward to people. And, you know, as I say, in a job like a doctor, that's extremely useful. You know, if you were a customer services person, might not be quite such a desirable trait. Okay, so writing, in terms of ordinary, a very famous person once said kind of sentence, that's involuntary. We know our letters. We were taught them at age 4, 5, 6, whatever. Didn't take us that long to learn how to do them. And from then on, you're cruising. You know what the letters are like. You'll never mix up a D and a B, blah, 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 blah. You know, for most of us, it's an involuntary action. I'm not, again, you know, you may well have dyslexic people that will have trouble with that their whole life. But in terms of the majority of people, it's involuntary. And so, as such, it expresses emotions that maybe we don't want to always put on show to the public. Maybe we do, but you can't help it. They're there. Even if, yes, people do try to change their writing. You know, a criminal that's got, you know, half a bit of knowledge about handwriting and wants to change their writing can't really, because because these personality traits will come through anyway. Okay, as you can change your personality via therapy, but it is via therapy. It's not by, you know, necessarily sitting there with a piece of paper and changing every single letter that you think is going to sort of let your cover blow, as it were. Okay. Block capitals. The first thing you'll see there is a block capital, dear Marky P. I've just got a few generalisations here. Okay, I say when capitals are used correctly, that means in the right places in sentences, people's names, start of sentences, abbreviations, whatnot. When they're used in the correct place, and when they're the same height as tall letters and in proportion, it's showing you again this balance between inspiration, balance between your upper intuition, as it were, your principles. I'm not going to buy Nestle because yada yada yada, and so you avoid those on the shelves. Those are your principles, and your actions, actually what you do. These people, you know, they're living by their principles. If you mix capitals, particularly the letter K, it could show, because that capital letter at the start of the sentence signifies a spark of inspiration. Oh, I'm going to write something now. I'm going to be creative. Remember to get loo rolls and bin bags. And I've put that capital there to inspire me to write this amazing creative piece here. Okay, and so you start putting those in the middle of words, and you do get people who do it. George Harrison, the famous Beatles person, you know, he was constantly on the lookout for inspiration. And yes, he persevered. It was this, you know, he was the one in the Beatles who had to sit up all night memorising those chords, because it didn't come to him straight away. So it shows in his writing. It shows in his writing how much of a motivation he needed to get out of whatever situation he was in and to improve himself and better himself. It's not correct in terms of syntax and grammar, but it's quite a good indicator of how inspired a person is and how creative they are as well. Okay, that said, this capital A here is a daydreamer. Look how high that goes. Too high. Boom, daydreams, like my D here. Where letters shouldn't come under the line, but do, there's a spark of stubbornness and determination about these people. Okay, it's not quite the same as I need inspiration. I'm on the lookout for divine inspiration to write my next song. It's, I'm damn well going to do it. I'm damn well going to succeed. You notice it in my writing a fair bit here, but as I say, you know, it's not ideal circumstances for me to write in, but look at that I there, going down under the line there. That S goes under the line there, another one there. Middle zone capitals there. Again, you know, I don't want to write the New World Symphony. All I want to do is get the shopping done and be back in time for Coronation Street. You know, that's that kind of level, yeah? All capitals, something to hide, because as I say, the way that people form their lowercase letters and their cursive letters are far more telling about their personality than capitals. Okay, so without further ado, the next things you're going to see are me taking the letters in A Famous Person Once Said sentence and going through them kind of in the order in which they occur in that sentence that I asked you to write sort of further back at the beginning. In fact, it does go out of sequence a little bit, but that's just because of related ideas and things. It's because the fact that I join my writing, I make these connections with other letters and things like that, and I think maybe, yeah, those ought to go together. How well do you plan? Shows up in the letters F, and to a different extent and a related extent in the letters T and K. So we will take the letter F as in famous. Okay, now I'm going to try and draw this with an arrow here, or with my marker here. This little hook is the future. What do I want for the future? Be nice to go on a picnic, wouldn't it? The stick going down is me in my current circumstance now. Where am I? At work. And then a very decisive vump. Sod that, let's go on a picnic. Okay? I'm flippant here because I'm flippant, okay? But you could, if you're trying to put things in a more comforting way that's going to be easy for people to hear, then you could do little stories like this, okay? My phone's broken. What's a good deal? Give me a good deal. Get it. Sign the dotted line. These people are direct. They know what they want. They're quick to assess the current situation and quick to act. These are people that you probably want on your customer services desk or in reception at a hotel, because they know what someone's needs are, they're good at understanding what their problems are, and they can do something about it. This person here. Oh dear, my mobile phone's broken, I need a new one. I wonder what features I need. Yeah, Apple have always been very good in the past. I'll get another Apple phone. These people rely on past experience in order to plan. Can you see how that's different from, oh, where am I now? At work. sod it, let's go on a picnic. This person in the picnic situation, oh yeah, it's lovely to go on a picnic. Where am I now? At work. Oh, where would I like to be? Oh, Fairlight, that's a nice place to go for a picnic. Yeah, we went there last time, didn't we? Had a nice time, let's go to Fairlight. These are loyal people as well, you know, tracing, you know, that kind of using past experience to plan, you know, and sort of taking that to its logical extreme. These are people that will stick by you through thick and thin. Great people to have around. Not necessarily the most forward thinking of people. You may not want them on your board of directors, but they're still, you know, great customers in a way. Once you've got them, you've got them. Okay, so they tend to live in their comfort zone an awful lot. This one down here. See, I hope you can see my little marker here. Oh, it'd be nice to go on a picnic. Tell you what, everyone, send me the dates you're free. I'll go on TripAdvisor, read a few reviews about it, and then find the best place to go and get back to you. Okay, yeah? Different from relying on your comfort zone. It's a very strategic person. This person has vision for the future. They're the person you want on your board of directors to push the company forward based on analysis of current trends, based on how we've traditionally performed in the past. But no, we don't want to go back to 1908. You know, maybe, you know, this time last year kind of thing, or, you know, at this period in the last quarter, as it were, you know, vroom, and then this is what we need to do and move forward. A very interesting letter is F. There are umpteen variations of it, but essentially if you can see this hook as being able to kind of think about the future, think about your future needs, being able to assess it, any kind of backward strokes there are showing that, you know, these people live in their comfort zone. The other day I analysed someone's writing who didn't do this forward hook at all, but then basically, see if I can do it here, I can't write, I'm sorry, so you won't be able to see it, but follow my arrow. Down, up, like that. Or sorry, down, backwards, up, like that. And I said to this person, you don't really think forward when you do your planning, do you? You know, you don't really think of, you know, too far into the future, do you? So I don't plan at all. So, yeah, this is someone that basically acts according to what's always worked well. Your home life. Look at this lovely A. This is the A that, you know, when you're first teaching infants how to do joined up writing, you teach them forward roll, backward roll, and sit up straight. I used to have these silly little rhymes for them, and it used to look like a little girl with a hairstyle as well. So, you know, again, you know, I used to, you know, have all these funny little jokes, but this is very contented. We're not making too much of an unhealthy nod at the past. We're moving forward in our lives. We've got this lovely sort of closed, complete head life where we're happy. That's your head, yeah? And we're able to move forward from that, knowing that we have this security from the past and we can move forward from it. And we're happy, okay? When I say your home, I don't necessarily mean the bricks and mortar, but wherever you are, and in whatever situation, you have this sense of groundedness that you can make yourself happy in ideal situations, not quite so ideal situations. If you're at a party and you'd rather not be there, but because you're there, you'll make yourself happy, that kind of thing. You know, home is where the heart is. I've drawn a little hearty there. Where you can see this gap that's beginning to form here. Sorry, I must have been having a panic attack while I was writing that. It's all a bit shaky. Didn't look quite so shaky on my iPad because the screen's much smaller, but yeah, you know, you'll have to sort of take into account this is my Apple Pencil, it's not my pen. This gap here is showing gaps in home life. We're not entirely happy. We can't always make ourselves at home in certain situations. Wherever we are, in fact, there will always be some kind of thing that's making us feel uncomfortable. I make no bones about it. I'm that kind of person. There's always something that is going to, if I let it, bug me, worry me. Ooh, I feel a little bit uncomfortable in this social gathering. You know, is there someone else I can go and talk to where I can breathe a bit, relax a little bit? Ooh, bit bored, lonely at home. That will drive me mental. Do you know what I mean? You know, the minute that I start getting bored, or I feel like I haven't seen someone for a day, maybe, then it'll start driving me mental. Okay, there are very few situations where I can feel, yeah, purely happy. Okay, so you know, this person's got gaps in their life. It's quite an honest thing. The fact that it's not a closed kind of circly bit here shows that, again, a certain element of talkativeness. These people will share. They might share forever and a day and get irritating person disorder as a result because of all their hang-ups, but they will share, they will talk about it, which is quite healthy. They've got an outlet for that. Okay, where you see this upstroke leading to a loop here, there's a little bit of self-deceit going on. And because this letter A is about this contentedness of you being you and happy being you and just making the most of any circumstances, because you've got this groundedness, you've got this lovely home life, you know, you love your kids or whatever, or that, you know, even just coming home and finding your bedroom, which is a lovely lilac colour, and where you can just go and meditate and stuff like that. You've got this thing to fall back on that is giving you that strength. You know, these people with gaps haven't got that. And these people that put the loops in the middle of that home, as it were, of that headspace, are, because the loop is on the left, as I say, any strokes towards the left are me. And this kind of trait here, it's a little bit negative in that these people deceive themselves, that, you know, perhaps believe things about themselves which aren't true. So when I'm putting self-deceit here, I'm not meaning that these people are barefaced liars, that they have an either overinflated or underinflated view of themselves. Okay, and in a way it relates to the letter T and your self-esteem. These people don't believe that they fit in. Where you have a big, see how this upstroke here closely traces the shape of the A. This one here doesn't. There's a gap in between there, and I've exaggerated it there. But that's what's called a claw or a stinger, and you'll see it in other letters, C, G, D, etc. And again, coupled with that self-deceit thing as well, you know, that's a huge stinger there. Look at that D, that's a huge stinger. You'll see it over my writing as well. Okay, these people have, when they're in their social life, perhaps their home life as well, these people have issues hanging around with the opposite sex. These people, and it's not necessarily to do with your sexuality. It could be seen as such if you're talking to a heterosexual and you know they're a heterosexual and you see that they do the top kind of A here. These are, you know, equally, you know, happy and secure with men or women. Whereas you see these stingers here, they are, you know, this is a bloke that goes out drinking with his mates, is happy hanging around with the blokes. If it was a female, similar, girls' night out kind of thing, you know, the men do their thing, I hang around with the girls kind of thing, you know. So it's more to do with your social and your working life, more than anything. And in my stingers, you'll see I'm happy to hang around with blokes. I'm quite often intimidated by women, especially very strong women. It's got nothing to do with the fact that I'm gay or not. It could be, but on a more innocent level, if I choose to socialise, yeah, I don't mind girls, I'll chat with them and whatever, but I'm far more happy if I'm in a small group, whatever, and having a drink with blokes and being included in their conversation. Yes, I can get intimidated by blokes as well, because I've got this in my writing, this gap, okay? Look at there, it's right up there, see? But, you know, quite often that gap shows up in my writing, and I might be thinking, oh my God, they're talking about football again. You know, you know, why can't they talk about, you know, something they saw on telly that we've all got in common with? So yeah, there is that with me. But in terms of, you know, who I'm generally comfortable to hang around with, it's blokes. On a negative point, if you were in a relationship with these people, you would have trouble because you would be constantly thinking about, how on earth do I keep these people interested in me? How do I stop them going off me? Okay, that stinger there, it's a little cautionary note, you know, that you're going to have your work cut out in terms of keeping them happy, keeping them interested in you, because they'll go off you quickly. And, you know, obviously depending on other parts and traits in their writing, that could be extremely negative. That could be, you know, I only like a bird, what's the challenge? And once I've had her, boom, she's gone, out my life, whatever, next one. So just be a little bit on your guard if you see a stinger. But, you know, as I say, there could be a myriad of reasons for it. Learning styles shows up in the M, as in famous, and N, which comes later on, but I'm taking them together. Look at these lovely wavy lines here. Wavy, wavy, wavy. I'll take my time. You know, don't teach me how to divide yet because I've only just learnt my tables, blah, 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 blah. You know, and I will pick up these situations and I'll concentrate and do my hardest. I didn't mean to go under the lines here, but look how that M, I used to call an M a three-legged camel. Basically, it's got two humps on it and three legs, and those legs have got to touch the ground. Where you lack focus, particularly that middle leg, as it were, where my little cursor's going around here, if that doesn't touch the line, that's lacking focus. This person's really concentrating, but they need everything put out in a very methodological order. Do not lead me into the next room because I've only just learnt where this room is. You know, in new situations, this person here will cope with guidance. These people retain what they learn because they take it slowly. But they're not quick fire, bum, 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 give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. Analytical, where the humps are more zigzaggy. Okay? Quick to learn, quick to take it on board because I'm focused. Again, my middle point here is touching the ground. Okay, I've got that. Bum, 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 bum. Stick me in a new situation and I'll work it out myself. This one, up here, first one. Boom, wavy, wavy, wavy. You'll teach me it, but I'll be happy once you've taught me, miss. This one, don't worry, miss. I'll be all right. I can do it. Boom, you know. But these people, in the long term, because it's in, out, in, out, in, out, give me the next thing, give me the next thing, give me the next thing, they don't necessarily always get time to let things purely sink in, okay? So these people, you'll need to go back, check that they haven't forgotten what you taught them last week. You know, once you know that they're on board with that, then you can move forward as quick as you like. You can take six steps forward, boom, we can go. Oh, look, chilled out, chilled. Yeah, 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 yeah. Day to day. Yeah, that's boring, but I do it anyway. Chilled, chilled, chilled. Yeah, ask me anything you like. I won't take offence. Blah, 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 blah. Oh yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Boom, you know, boom, boom. Chilled. Those M's and N's can quite often become illegible because of the fact that they don't have this stick going down. Okay, this stick is I absorb into my body, my brain, my psyche. Okay. I take, I ruminate upon, I'm concentrating, take a bit more and carry on, okay? And you do need this, I'm absorbing, okay? This is chilled and lacking in focus, essentially. And look at that one there, you see? It's just lacking in focus, boom. And I think I'm all right. Doesn't bother me either way, really. Looking at the size of the humps in relation to one another. Going back to the first example, these two humps are more or less the same size. These are people who basically are careful what they say, but that, you know, they'll say it anyway. You know, if something's to be said, they know it can be said without there being a problem with me making a fool of myself, without the other person taking offence at what I say. Where the first hump is small, the issue here is with me. Okay, when I talk to other people, I don't want to look stupid. When I'm in a situation, in a woodwork lesson, I don't want to make an idiot of myself here by the fact that I'm cack-handed with the saw. I do not want to make a fool of myself. I'm terribly self-conscious about that. That'll show up. I've exaggerated it there. But Michael Jackson's signature, That was the first M of his signature down on the bottom right here. This is, you know, his main motivator. His main motivator in public, and why he worked so darn hard, was the fact that there was always this fear in his mind that he would end up looking stupid in public. Okay, it's self-conscious people. Okay, and this is the me aspect of it. The strokes towards the left are the me. I don't want to look silly in public. The other way round, the left hump is taller than the right hump. That's relating to you. I don't want to make you look silly in public. These people will couch their words very carefully so that you don't look silly in public. If I was your teacher and you told me that 2 times 6 is 9, then I'm not going to say, oh, you stupid fool, go away and learn your tables and write them out 100 times and, you know, and everyone else giggle. Where you have an M or an N with loopy-loos here, which aren't needed. Loops can be seen as signs of creativity, but only in places where they don't actually affect the legibility of the letter. By the time that you've got a word like summary, those loops in that M are going to start becoming a little bit illegible, and you're going to have to start working out, you have to sort of do a double take to see what the thing is. Likewise with N's here. It's a sign that someone is struggling, that they're lacking some sort of authoritative guidance to help them through. Okay, you might see it if you look at a child's science book and see that they really did not get that concept of E equals mc squared, and you might start seeing little loops like this in their writing. Whereas if you looked at their history book where they really got into the causes of the Russian Revolution, you might start seeing M's that are more like the first 2 examples, and the same with N's. These people need guidance. I'm putting the word caution there because in one of Bart Baggett's videos, I saw those. Now it's Zubin Vervaina, the other person that I really respect on YouTube for the handwriting. He was the one who pointed this out. I haven't seen this mentioned anywhere on Bart Baggett's website, for example. But I could see that in a piece of writing that was taken out of a child's exercise book. It didn't identify the child, obviously. And the reason I mention it is because this child had a very domineering mother who even the adults in her neighbourhood were scared of. You know, this child had lying loops all over the place. Remember I talked about those deceptive loops in the letter A, for example. Well, he had, you know, deceptive loops everywhere, and these loops in his M's as well, and even more bizarrely, upside down in U's, which I've never seen before. And it was because of the lack of parental support that he was getting at home. The fact that he was having to go home, lie about who he was texting, lie about his grades at school or whatever it was to keep an easy life. You know, on a very benign level, I don't like this subject, not finding it easy, but this person was not feeling that there was any kind of adult support that they could go to that was either going to ease the situation at home, i.e. go to the scout leader or teacher or whatever, and certainly not at home was he getting the parental nourishment that he needed. So yeah, just be aware how you couch that one. You know, do it in conversation. Don't just write that down and say, yeah, you're lacking guidance, whatever, because it could sound quite negative, could, you know, freak someone out a little bit, you know. Look at this M here. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle like a blob of blancmange or jelly. And look how by the time that you've got that into a long word, that's supposed to say unmanageable. Yeah, how you might have to sort of work on deciphering those letters because they're not formed correctly. And wherever you get something like that, you know, these people, rather than telling you the truth, would rather just not say anything at all. You know, it's another form of tact, isn't it? You know, look at, you know, this diplomatic thing here. You know, I will have to tell you the truth. 6 times 2 is not 9. But down here, you know, this person will try and ignore what they don't want to discuss. They'll, you know, it's a bit of an evasive tactic, really, here. And also, I've drawn a set of teeth here because there's been some kind of research into how M's and N's can also show up the state of your teeth, your dental health. Okay, talking of dental healths and stuff, let's talk about the mouth. This is really how we use our gobs to communicate with people. Okay, our first two examples here, a printed O, nice closed loop. When it's joined, it's still a nice closed loop with nothing intruding into that circle. These people are open, they're honest, they say what needs to be said, they'll be friendly, they'll be nice, they won't go and lie behind your back. They've got nothing to hide, these people. It's actually quite rare because we've all got things to hide, but you do see it, okay? Particularly this printed O here, okay? These, you know, I won't lie to you, mate. You know, I'll say what needs to be said. You know, if there's something tough, again, it's like this M here. If there's something tough that needs to be said, I'll say it. These people here, you can see the gap here. They will just blab, 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 blab. Okay, and I've even done someone here shouting because, you know, when coupled with, again, using two traits here, the controlling T, which you'll see later on, and an open mouth like that, this person controls by their voice. They shout, they bark their orders out. Okay, and now, you know, again, you know, we talked about the A being, you know, perhaps, you know, having a self-deceptive loop in it, perhaps, but here with this O, this is where it really starts to show up. Okay, self-deceptive. I lie to myself. I don't really have cancer. Could be, you know, horrible thing. You know, my husband's not really having an affair. Yeah, my bank balance is okay, knowing that I'm living in my overdraft. You know, I'll come out for a few pints, whatever, doesn't matter. It's trying to smooth over uncomfortable things in your life just by believing that they're not true. Could be detrimental, might not be. Depends. Depends on what it is. You know, and again, you'd have to have the conversation. You'd have to find out what's really eating at this person. This person deceives others. Look how the loop points to the right this time. This loop comes from the left and goes round and moves to the right. The second one here goes up and down and around and then leads out to the right with the loop. Okay, brave face I've put there. Brave face in other people. It's a mask. Okay, it's not terribly concerning. These people are not going to, you know, regale you at parties with how they jumped out of a helicopter at 20,000 feet to go and save someone that they saw in the sea below, and then they swam 50 miles to shore, gave him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, and, you know, and became a hero, and everyone loved me. You know, this, you know, it's not that kind of, you know, lie like that. But there is a bit of deceptiveness there. And as I say, because it's just one loop, one lying loop there, boom, it's putting a brave face on in spite of. This person here believes their own myth. Because they've told themselves so many times, they've ignored such and such a thing about themselves, they suddenly start to believe it's true. And that's what they tell other people. Okay, so the kind of deception you've got to, you know, think about why people lie, and everybody lies. I'm not sitting in a lie detector saying that the baby's not mine, but there's a little bit of, you know, of stuff there that perhaps needs to be untangled. This is the real forked tongue. Can you see that little cross that goes inside the loop, or inside the O, as it were? You speak with forked tongue. This person might bitch about you behind your back. Just be a little bit aware of them. Okay. Here we have that X going outside the letter there. People have pointed that out before, and I don't really know what it means. It's a bit of a mystery in the handwriting analysis world. Look how in the word once here, there's a cross there, and even where these two letters, I presume that whoever was writing these meant them to be separate, but suddenly there's that cross there, and it can come up in just about any letter pattern, and when you start seeing it, it's not a healthy thing. Sticking crosses anywhere is not a healthy thing. So, you know, just be aware, okay? I've even heard that that cross is to do with a preoccupation with death. So even if you see it once in a piece of writing, be aware that, you know, maybe there's some worry there. Maybe they're worried about an aging relative or something like that. Maybe it's even their own death. And, you know, here, nice wide open mouth, honest. That one's very tight-lipped. Okay, I've joined it here, but it might not necessarily be that small hole there that's supposed to be an O. It's quiet. Okay, quiet, tight-lipped, very, very introverted. Most of the time, you'll see O's that look more like either the first example or one of these loopy ones, you know, with the deceptive loops in them. As I say, the first three deceptive ones might, you know, you don't need to worry about interacting with them as people, you know, and thinking that they're barefaced liars. But the forked tongue one, yes, so I'll start worrying about that one. And, you know, there would be, you know, reasons for therapy, I think, if you saw too many crosses in people's writing, you know, even one, perhaps. I'm putting E next. It doesn't come next in our famous person once said sentence, but because it's so, you know, the mouth, this is I blab, 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 blab. The ear is the E. It's I listen. How receptive you are to new ideas. These people will hear people out, regardless of what they have to say. So guess what that one means? Where there is no gap in the curly-whirly bit. Okay, you need the gap, the hole, as it were, for an E to be an E. Where you don't have that gap and it starts to look more like a letter C, then this is someone that's not receptive to new ideas. They don't always listen. And you can make this judgment of how people balance out talking and listening by sort of comparing the sizes of the holes in the E's and the O's. This is an open kind of E, where it's a lowercase e, but it looks like a capital E, but a smaller version of it. I think that's a positive trait. I can't remember what that means. I did find out once. You can see, look, I've done an example of it there. So you can see it's actually a lowercase, but it looks like an uppercase E. I think it's positive. I think, and someone might have to correct me, please do correct me on this, an open Greek E is someone that would rather hear about you than tell you about themselves. They're wonderful social people to have at parties because they are really interested in you. You know, I think that's what that means. Okay, sharing knowledge. How we share knowledge. The letter U, as in the U in famous. Okay, and also it's related to the letter B. There is a subtle difference between them, and I'll get on to explaining what that is in a minute, but they are kind of related, okay? The B as in back to the zoo. This downstroke of a U is taking. Remember we said those downstrokes are about taking in, absorbing, okay? And where that comes from. Now this is a middle zone letter, so it's coming from the mundane aspect of our lives. Those things that we do more or less on automatic. We think over that situation, and then the upstroke, we act and share. Move on, even. Yeah. We notice a situation, we think it over, we act, we move on. Now this, because of this very curved U shape here, I've exaggerated it here, this is someone who thinks carefully, who perceives perhaps a long way off that those traffic lights are about to turn red, doesn't wait until they're right up on those traffic lights and slam on the brakes. They perceive, they give themselves time to take it in, they act calmly, they move on. So this is middle zone style knowledge. Where it's more like a V, as in my example down here, I've written can't wait there, it's rash. You'll see, again, you'll see that shape in my writing. This kind of, boom, see it, don't really think about it, do it. People accuse me of digging holes for myself, and I do. Because I don't always think things over before I say them. I can remember, you know, again, you know, these funny things that stick in your mind, it happens, you know, 20 times a day. Some child tells on someone at work, I don't work anymore. The cage door is open, but I'm still stuck there, so I'm afraid, you know, a lot of examples will come from my working life. I can remember having a conversation with a teacher about some sin that some child had committed, or was supposed to have committed, and thinking, oh gosh, you know, that's at least a missed break time, isn't it? You know, kind of thing. And she turned around to me and said, let's find out if he did it first. And that is the difference. That's the difference. I think that in a sense, you know, because, you know, handwriting, it's in our psyche and it is to do with our body. And also, you know, one of the main functions of our body is to take in food and get rid of it. Okay, and it's how do you digest information? How does your body digest food? Is it, you know, getting every last extract of nutrients from your food before you expel it, politely putting it? Or is there some element of your diet, 3 McDonald's a week, for example, which is actually hampering the rest of your body's ability to get the nutrition it needs out of your diet? So, you know, you can see how that would work. You know, the B is definitely, you know, definitely has, you know, these connotations with nutrition. That is your belly. Boom. That's your belly. And this is your attitude to learning and sharing knowledge. Okay, and I think my arrows kind of explain it. You know, we're mindful of others, yeah, because we're taking from that upper zone. Okay, and when I say mindful, in this sense, it is we go to authorities, we go to those eminent authors, eminent experts in the subject. We take it in, we digest it, think it over, we're satisfied by that, and we give thanks. Okay, and it's the same in terms of you know, just your food. We're mindful. Someone's made this for us. We're perhaps a bit thankful. Yeah. Digest that food. We're satisfied by it. We give thanks. If you see any kind of gap here, and perhaps I should have made a bit more of a bigger deal of this, but if you see any kind of gap here, it's a dissatisfaction with, you know, for some reason you're not getting either the knowledge nutrition or the food nutrition of what you need. Okay, but this is, you know, because it's in the upper and middle zones, it's your attitude. This is your just day-to-day, the you here, it's just your day-to-day mundane thing. You know, I deal with this, boom, move on. Deal with it, move on. You know, or I perceive something a long way away, perhaps I give myself time to think over, I deal with it, move on. But they're you know, you can see how they're related. Okay. And I think the B should have been sharing knowledge too. I think there's a mistake there because I don't think I've got a sharing knowledge too here. Never mind. Right, so now we're on the S, which is your patience. When I say patience, I get an idea. I thoroughly think it through, set the wheels in motion, wait for it to germinate, and it happens. Okay, look at this, you see? This is me. I'm getting my idea because I'm coming from the ground, reaching up into my thoughts, ruminating that idea over, putting it into action, and reaping the rewards. Moving on, reaping the rewards. Okay, these people will wait for something. Yeah, it's thorough and it's attentive, and you know, this is, you know, the idea that perhaps, you know, in 20 years' time I'm going to be a famous film star, and they put all the steps in motion and they're happy to wait that 20 years for this thing to happen. If you can't wait that long, if you know that in 20 years' time you'll have lost your looks and look like a wrinkled old tea bag, I think, well, actually, no, this has got to happen next year. I've still got to put those thorough steps in motion, but here, these kind of shorthand joined S's here are more efficient ways of doing the latter. Okay, you see someone doing an S like that without the wiggly, shaky, paranoid bit here, but around and out again like that. That's a thorough, you know, it's a cursive S, and it shows that you do things thoroughly, that you think things through carefully with your ideas. You don't just slapdash. Okay, these wiggles down here, slapdash, those are supposed to be S's. Okay, they cut corners. They start looking like a letter I, in fact, which is, you know, the taking. Just do it, boom, get it, boom. Okay, this is, you know, these are people who plan things out, wait for them to happen. You know, they're even quite happy to fiddle with it, tweak this little bit and that bit there, whatever. Go back, revise, redo. You know, this is, you know, think about, you know, writing a book. or something like that. You know, of how, you know, you've got to go back, you know, and score that bit out because I said it better over here, and you know that paragraph would be better off coming up there. And it's that kind of being able to fiddle with an idea until you've got this clear vision that's been, you know, expressed with, you know, absolute clarity and patience. Okay. Oh golly, that's a wiggly little thing there. But when your S's start to look like snails, okay, all of these should be in the middle zone, and I apologise that they're not. This is basically the iPad and the Apple Pencil here, okay? But look, cuts corners, cuts corners. When you start getting that loopy bit up there in the upper zone, this is someone that wants to draw attention to themselves as well, you know, and their ideas and their plans, and it's, you know, it's your patience, basically. Do you do things properly? You know, even, you know, because it's in the middle zone, you know, even mundane things like doing the ironing. Are you the sort of person that irons the shoulders properly, does both sides of the sleeve, irons in and out and around the buttons, does the back as well? Or do you think, well, actually, the only thing that people are going to see because I'm wearing a jacket is the front, and not worry about anything else? Do you know what I mean? You know, this first example is also the kind of person that irons their towels and socks and pants. You know, this person here recognises the importance of ironing, but it's just going to do the most efficient thing. You know, basically, you know, yes, the job's got to be done thoroughly, but no one sees my towels. Hopefully they don't see my undies. So I'll concentrate on ironing the shirts properly, because that's, you know, the important thing. You know, you can prioritise in things and do what's the important thing. This person here cuts corners. Okay, this person here is a bit attention seeking. Okay, and this printed S here, you know, these people, they start what they intend to finish. They won't let you down. They won't stand you up. Basically, if they say, yep, you know, we've got a date for Costa at 3 o'clock this afternoon, they'll be there at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Okay, but it's not this kind of very detailed attitude here of the first S with that joining on. Okay, the letter P, as in person, a famous person once said, is physical. It's how fit your body is. And you know, this is the basic P here, printed P. It's a line down. You can see that the middle zone and the descender are the same size. Okay, the round part of the P starts at the top of the stick, moves round, lands on the line, and joins up in the middle. Okay, that person is likely to be fit and sporty. They may not necessarily be, you know, working out and taking vitamin supplements every day, but they lead a healthy lifestyle. They do, you know, the amount of exercise, they're getting the amount of exercise to not be fat there, and whatever it is they need to do throughout the day, they've got enough puff to see them through. When you start seeing that small, closed up round bit there, yeah, that's not physically fit. Where there are gaps, for example, at the top or at the middle, it shows that there's a lack of puff somewhere. The first example, where the gap's at the top, is I find it difficult to get going. Oh shit, is that a tiger coming down the road? Yeah, I think there might be a tiger coming down the road. Oh my god, there's a tiger! Fuck! We go move on, you know? And then you'll suddenly find the energy to do it. In your mundane day-to-day life, these people will meet their deadlines. They won't start their essay a month before it's due, the way that they're supposed to. But by the time that essay is, 3 days away, they'll do it, and they'll do it well. Okay, but you know, so it's this lack of being able to get going. Obviously, it's a vice versa where the gap's at the bottom. These people start well. Blimey, that's a tiger coming down the road. Run. But by the time that they, you know, by the time that tiger's nearly on top of them, they're out of puff. Maybe they don't necessarily meet those deadlines in life. You know, again, I'm just taking things to kind of, you know, logical conclusions. But the origins of the P are the fact that it's in the body, and it's the health of the body that is the basic thing. Okay, but obviously, you know, the fact that this deadline issue has a, you know, a related kind of connotation, you know, that we're getting to the finish line, you know. A straight line down or an upstroke with a straight line down. These people, I quite often say, you know, you're not going to hug your friends in public. You know, if your mum gave you a big sloppy kiss in public, you'd be like, ooh, you know, don't touch me, kind of thing, you know. The loop in the stem here, they need a cuddle. Give them a cuddle, okay? But no, these people that do need a cuddle, look at how you've got this triangular shape here. Whoop, whoop, whoop. These people will dig their heels in. They're stubborn people as well. Okay, stubborn, determined, maybe might be a more euphemistic way of putting it, but there is a stubborn streak there as well. You know, again, it might mean that they're a difficult customer to deal with. It might not. Your social life. I'm going to put my hand on my heart here and say that really the letters G, J and Y are the ones that really and truthfully show how sociable and how well you relate to other people. The C is part of it. Again, it's your mouth, okay? From a side view, how receptive are you? And when you have that beautiful curve, can you see how they're equal and they make that wonderful curve here, or with that joining up here thing? You know, we're sociable. We'll chat to you, interested in what you have to say, you know, outgoing, you know, want to be with people. Okay, the shyer person, again, that's not really a very good printed C there, but basically, look at my C in social here, okay? Because there is a, you know, quite, despite what people think, and despite my mouth, you know, I have got a big mouth, as you can see, yada yada yada, but also there's a shyness and a reticence there as well, which explains some of the nervous tics and the you knows and so yes and things that I put into all my videos, and people pick me up on it. Can't help it, it's nerves. But yeah, you see, it's not quite a complete curve, and those people are shy. Okay, but do be careful, watch out for these stingers here that show how you, remember how we talked about how you relate to the opposite sex. A stinger is not an entirely positive trait, but it's can be benign. Much prefer going out with the lads to the out and out hostility and feeling oppressed by members of the other sex, feeling, you know, this kind of intimidation, as it were, and this need for, you know, in your relationships, this need for the challenge of getting those difficult people. Don't know if you can hear me doing my quotes here, you know, but you know, they need that challenge. But once they've got that challenge, move on. Okay, entitlement, and you can see I've underlined the I of entitlement because it's got an I in it, and also I is your name, and I don't think it's entirely a coincidence that the number one, and we talk about looking after number one, this is all about how do you look after number one, and you know, even the number one itself is a straight line down. We're not really concerned with the capital I here, we're concerned with the mundane, middle zone, normal day-to-day life. How well do you take time out for yourself? How well do you look after yourself? So the basic, a line down and a dot. It's the line down that we're looking for here, and that's the important thing. It's, I take. I'm at a meal table, I sit down, just help myself to what I want. Boom. Take what I need. Okay? The second example where we have this line going up, and this is why, you know, sometimes having joined up writing is an advantage here, because again, you know, it's all therapy, it's all brain messages. It's all brain messages. I give first. I will hand the plates around first. Oh, you know, oh, have some potatoes. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And you take what's left. Okay, so this is giving first. I give, I take, I move on. Okay, this person here, can you see the third example where the I, forget the dot for a minute, the I is much smaller than that middle zone, and I've even seen where people do their I and they don't even touch the line. This is someone who does not believe that they deserve. This person, and it happens, this person would much rather, they're not going to hand everything round first, but they'd much rather take less than than they want, just in case someone else wants more. And again, I'm sort of following this on to, you know, happiness and well-being. I take what I need. Example number 1, this person is happy. Okay? They know what makes them happy, they do what makes them happy. Okay? The middle example is thinking, oh yeah, if other people are happy, I can be happy as well. Okay? So it's this giving aspect of that upstroke that goes up in the air. If others are happy, I'm happy. This person here would much rather be unhappy as long as so-and-so else is happy. The wife or the husband, whatever, or the children even, you know. We will put ourselves out in order that our children are happy. Here are the dots in the upper zone. Okay, it's the first example. I've drawn a little grid. Okay, here the dot, we've got the taking stick, as it were, the middle zone taking stick that we've just been talking about here. Okay, the middle zone and then the upper zone. Okay, and this upper zone here, this is a person who just has a little nod, just recognises that when they take for themselves, that they should be thankful. Okay, when it comes right down to the middle zone, this is more of an I deserve. I deserve. Yeah, it's not an aggressive thing. It's not even a selfish thing. It's just an acknowledgement that, you know, here's the food, you know, and take it. We deserve it, kind of thing. Yeah, it's just factual. Boom, you know, mundane, middle zone. Okay. Any kind of jab is a sign of some kind of anger. I'm going to define this here because the letter I is about taking what you need, and I'm sorry there's a baby crying, you might be able to hear it. But because this I is about taking what we need, this is someone whose anger is righteous. Maybe this is someone who's been deprived of something in the past. And, you know, I've damn well worked hard for this. I didn't have this as a child. You know, there was never enough food on the plate. You know, I've worked hard to get where I am. I don't feel I need to justify the comforts in life that I have to anybody else. Think about the starving in, you know, out of Botswana or somewhere. I don't have to think about that. Boom. I've worked hard. I deserve it. You know, again, I perhaps haven't described that in the ultimate charitable way, but where you do get, you know, people who as children maybe have not experienced love, have not experienced the very, very basics of care, then suddenly you're going to start seeing those little dashes there. Okay, because in the situations where they're happy, they're kind of feeling able to vent some anger about not getting those basic needs met. Okay, so this is really, how do we achieve those basic needs? How do we provide for ourselves? It has to do with the letter T in terms of goal setting. Okay, and you'll see, you'll be able to work that out in a minute, but or an hour, depending on how long I blab. But if your self-esteem is low, the goals you set are low, you may find that you lack the motivation to really be able to provide for yourself. And this dot, can you see, it's just a million miles away from its target. You might bite off more than you can chew sometimes. Your goals might be too high, regardless of where your T-bar is, and you know, that won't be jargon in a minute, but regardless of where your T-bar is, in terms of the goals you set yourself, it might be that you bite off far more than you can chew, and you miss your goals, you overshoot, boom. Yeah. So this is the, you know, in terms of providing for your daily basic needs. Yeah. Boom. Do the goals I set relate to how much I can provide for myself? Do they fall short? Boom. Do I bite off more than I can chew? And then you've got the I that is with the dot perfectly over the top. Bang on, hitting the target. Very close attention to detail. I achieved what I set out to do. And also I probably made airfix models because, you know, of my fine motor control here. Or You know, I can sew an intricate tapestry or do any kind of craft that involves some sort of fine motor control. Hearts, circles, etc. They show a certain amount of kitschy cuteness, even perhaps a little bit of creativity. And look, this heart, doesn't it show how much, you know, I really love to just take my time out in the evening just for an hour with a glass of wine and an episode on the telly kind of thing. But really, it's a little bit immature. You know, it's just a little bit twee, really. Don't do it. Bright red, okay, everything here, if you can avoid talking about it, do. This heavily relies on context. You cannot make big judgments here without looking at some of the other things that go on in the writing. So thinking about, you know, some of the more negative traits of the I, you know, the stabbing the dots there, or the jabbing in the forked tongue in the O, or something like that. You know, stack those traits before you do anything here. Okay, caution, caution, caution. Okay, now the letter D. I used to have this rhyme: forward roll, backward roll, legs in the air, and stand up straight. That's how I taught children to write the letter D at school, 5-year-olds. Forward roll, backward roll, legs in the air, and stand up straight. And can you see how we get a perfectly retraced line? My cursor's in the bottom left corner, by the way. So I'll just do that again. Forward roll, backward roll, legs in the air, and stand up straight. And you get that perfect retraced line and that forward roll that goes forwards there. Okay? That is someone who is not particularly sensitive. They're not going to take offence at the slightest thing you say. As I say, water off a duck's back. It's like an English expression that we have that basically means that, yeah, you can criticise my outfit, I'm not bothered. You know, I don't care if you think my house is a mess. Take me as you find me, kind of thing. Blum, blum, blum. Yeah. Water off a duck's back. Look at my stinger in there. Ooh. I'm a bad person, people. Okay, but when that extends up to the upper zone, that's a very positive trait. It does mean that you don't spend your life being offended by every single word that somebody says. In the middle zone, can you see in this word that I've written here? Look at my cursor going around, yeah? That D doesn't extend into the upper zone. Yeah, this is all about my daily life. Okay, I tend not to think too much about, you know, highfalutin principles. You can say what you like to me. That's saying, you know, I've put up with worse shit than yours, so you can say what you like. So, you know, be aware. Be aware. Someone who's suffered in the past and has hardened themselves up in order to survive from day to day. Yeah, to not take offence at those things that have really hurt them in the past. They've not dealt with them. All they've done is shut them away. And then suddenly, boom, you can say what you like to me because I've taken far worse than your shit, you know. Yeah. Boom. Argumentative. Look how, again, we've got a retraced line here, but we've got this great big wigwam going on here. These people are going to argue with you, okay? Because the D, and, you know, be on your guard. If every piece of, if every letter and every other trait is something that goes where the writing stands up and shows that you're thinking and you're logical, and then suddenly that D goes to the left, which shows that you're emotionally withdrawn, yeah, it's a big warning sign of being very, very sensitive to criticism. Even if you see a tiny little loop like this, and here my loops are getting bigger and bigger up here, this loop at the top is showing how sensitive to criticism you are. Donald Trump used to have, before he hardened up, as a student, he was a model student. And in his signature, he used to have this very sensitive side to him. That's why Russell Brand says, I just want to cuddle Donald Trump. Because, you know, his signature now is so different. And it's basically, you know, zigzag, 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 zigzag of this cold, hard-faced, analytical, I'll do what it takes kind of person from this very sensitive person. Yeah. Even the slightest bit here, be careful with them. be careful with them. They do take offence. Okay, and you know, if you see that kind of triangular thing here, okay, yes, we should all, you know, stand up for ourselves and argue healthily. You know, in our healthy D, we have got a little bit of a triangle here, but where it's becoming dead obvious, like these, you know, some of these here, it's, you know, these people will argue with you. Looking over my shoulder, paranoid. Okay, the same paranoia, yeah. It's, you know, really sensitive, yeah. And it is true, okay? I know that's true, okay? These people, you know, again, someone who's paranoid is not a bad person. Is not a bad person, but you have to be very careful with them, okay? Treat them gently, you know? Even if you're not sensitive to a lot of what people say and moods and things like that, doesn't mean that someone else isn't. And you cannot trample over them, okay? So just, you know, be really careful if you see that in their writing. And this one here needs therapy, okay? Now we're really getting onto it, okay? I have seen Ds like this. Can you see, rather than the forward roll, legs, backward roll, blah, 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 we're going from the top, we go down, around. We don't necessarily join up that D, but we might, okay? This person may be verbally or physically aggressive. You've got to look at the rest of their writing. I'd prefer not to talk about it in case they got a punch in the teeth. But suffice to say that someone who I know a tiny little bit from online, I caught a glimpse of his writing. And I saw that D in there. And at the time, you know, I just kind of held that one and thought, oh, gosh, yeah, ooh. Exercise a little bit of care, caution, 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 whatever. I then saw on a well-known social media site that someone had criticised something that he put up there. And what came back was the biggest mouthful ever. It would leave you stunned if it was directed to you. It doesn't necessarily mean aggression. I'd want to look at these G's and Y's and the loops in the G's and Y's. But it can do, okay? You know, when you're looking at other letters, look at those O's as well. Yeah. Forked tongues. When you see things like this, yes, flippant me, run, move house. Look how this goes. This is joined up to an R. So it goes up to the top, comes down, goes round, and then wiggles away. It's really, you know, there is something going on there in your brain that shows that your moral obligations, as it were, are screwed. Yeah, are really screwed. And again, I will try and phrase this as carefully as I can. When dangerous criminals have had their writing analysed, there has always been something peculiar about the D. Okay, the example that I've just shown you that you should run and move house from is me making a copy of a serial killer's handwriting, that, you know, of somebody that was actually certified a serial killer. Okay, that doesn't mean to say that every single person that does a bizarre D is a serial killer, but it means that of those people that are dangerous criminals, they've all had, or a very, very high percentage, have had bizarre things going on with their Ds. Okay, so, you know, this colour red rag to a bull, yeah? If you don't do anything else, and you see someone's handwriting and you want to analyse it, the first thing you should be doing is looking at that letter D. How are they going to take what I'm going to say to them? Okay, and if you suddenly start seeing these paranoid things here, say as little as possible, and you know, as anemic as possible, and then move on, because you could destroy them. Okay, right, our humility. Okay, I've got 4 sections to this ego business here. Okay, it's mainly to do with the letter T. Okay, now I have heard, you know, people talking about this thing called the T-bar. Okay, the T-bar here is the black line that goes across here. Okay, and that somehow by raising or lowering that T-bar, you're raising your self-esteem. It's not quite that, okay? The self-esteem is the bit that is blue here, okay? It's basically the stick on the T, okay? That is your self-esteem. It's how humble you are in the company of other people. It's your ego versus everybody else's, Okay. The T bar has to do with self-esteem, in that if you have high self-esteem, you'll set yourself high goals, but it's not quite the same thing. Okay, so we're going to concern ourselves here with the bit in blue. It's the height of the stick from top to bottom. Okay, now, again, back in school, you know, children are taught that the letter T is the only medium-sized letter that there is. Okay, that it should not be quite as tall as a D. It shouldn't be as short as an O or an E. And so here I've tried to do that. Okay, I find controlling the height of my T's absolutely, you know, really difficult. Okay, it's moderate humbleness. Okay, you respect your own knowledge because your T's quite tall. Okay, you respect other people's knowledge. Okay, and because this curve comes down at the bottom, this is tact. Okay, so look, I'm going up to show respect for my knowledge. Yeah, I'm tactful about how I share that knowledge to people. Okay, I may be more flowery in my language. That is actually me, to be honest. That is me, you know. This person, straight down, line across, straight down, also has a high opinion of their own knowledge. Yeah, but is less tactful. Okay, when I'm making notes in class, you'll see those T's quite a lot, because I just want to say it, get it down, boom, blunt. Okay, this is not someone that is going to, you know, say, ever thought about having free dental treatment, love. This is not that kind of, you know, insulting people kind of bluntness. This is just making sure that you get down all those salient points, Blum, say it how it is. Call a spade a spade. Yeah, that's why I've drawn a little spade there. Okay, me, I'm flowery. You know, when I'm explaining things, I could go on and on forever. The second part of that ego is how you share the knowledge that you get from other people. Okay, and this is why it helps to have a T and an H together. Okay, it's going to become even clearer. Okay, so if you're speaking a language where you don't often get T's and H's coming together, then try and think of a sentence that does. Looking at the basic formation of an H, okay, you basically have an H where the hump retraces the line quite faithfully. You know, it goes up to the middle and comes round at the last minute, as it were. Okay, look, up pays respect, homage to the teacher. Okay, this is someone else's knowledge. Okay, when I say teacher, it's just some person in authority that imparts knowledge to you. Okay, it could even be God. Okay, so you're going up, you're paying homage, you're coming down, you're following their teachings to the letter, and then you're sharing that knowledge to others, coming away and sharing. I share what I've been taught. Okay, this person here, yeah, I pay homage to my teacher. Yeah, when I share knowledge with other people, I can take what that teacher has said to me and apply that to a different situation. Okay, so if I know that 15 times 3 is 45, if you were to ask me how many 3p lollies can I get for 45p, I'll be able to tell you 15, because I've applied that fact that I've been taught to a slightly more but different but related situation. Okay, you taught me to tie my shoelace up on my left foot. I can also tie up the shoelace on my right foot. Okay, so this is how you can apply knowledge to new areas of your life because you've been taught well by somebody. Yeah, you're a really practical person to have around, because if someone is stuck on something and you're not quite sure, you can go back and you can help them by thinking, oh yeah, do you remember, yeah, last week we learned that. And it's a bit like that, isn't it? It's not quite the same, but it's a bit like that. So if we apply that to this, yeah, whereas the first example is pretty much, you know, this is what I was taught. I wouldn't want to tell you something different from that in case I told you wrong. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay. And hence that gap there, okay? Seeing an H with a loop in it that comes from the bottom, goes to the top and comes round, is showing spiritual knowledge. Generally, you see, the reason why the loop in a D is so unhealthy is because it goes back towards the self. Yeah, it's showing that you dwell on things. Yeah, if somebody criticised your wardrobe, your outfit that you were going to wear for tonight, you would be back upstairs, throwing your clothes out onto the bed, and nothing would be suitable to wear. Yeah, okay. Healthy loops that show a sort of more healthy attitude, yeah, go towards the right. Okay, go towards other people. Okay, and you know, again, you know, because this loop is going up, it's giving. It's a giving loop. This loop on the D is coming down. It's coming back to, you know, this, you know, very mundane, almost base instinct me. Okay, this on the H is going up into the heavens. Yeah, okay, and the loop is made by going up into the heavens. Yeah, and it's spiritual knowledge. Okay, if you think of the humps as before, imagine that, you know, this, I share what I've been taught. H has a loop in it. This is somebody who very closely follows whatever spiritual teachings that they have. Okay, this person here, okay, the second one, the more practical thing, will be able to, if they put a loop in there, boom, going up and down, my spiritual knowledge, my spiritual beliefs help me to apply that thinking to new situations. Okay, where you have an H in the middle zone, it's self-taught, as it were. That's me being euphemistic. Okay, this is somebody that really and truthfully has had to fend for themselves in just about every single aspect. Yeah, I taught myself everything I know. You know, Alan Sugar out on the streets selling whatever to, you know, passers-by, as opposed to Alan Sugar, multi-millionaire and, you know, host of The Apprentice. And H is different from B, okay? B is how much satisfaction you get from learning, whereas H is how you then translate that learning into sharing that with other people. Okay, so ego part 3, coming back to that letter T, my knowledge versus other people's knowledge. Okay, again, we are going back to the height of the T, and this time it's in relation to the letter H. Okay, it could be a T followed by or next to any tall letter, like for example here in the word tall. Yeah, you've got the height of my T compared to the height of the L's, but it's not so helpful. Okay, because this T next to H represents an attitude. That th, particularly in English, comes together loads and loads of times, and it represents my attitude of what I know and how humble I am compared to you. Okay, and obviously, I suppose the healthiest thing is to have a high regard for your own knowledge, but that somebody else's knowledge is higher, that you always respect that there's something that you do not know, and that you and that you can learn from somebody else. Okay, where the T and H are equal height, it's not particularly unhealthy, particularly if you're an educator. If your T is much shorter than your H, then that is someone who is just too humble. Okay, they suppress themselves, they do not allow themselves to shine. If they were on a training course with you, then they would sit quietly at a table, even though they know a lot, they would sit quietly at a table and not share that knowledge, and perhaps allow themselves to be browbeaten by other people. Yeah, and guess what a high T compared to an H is? Use caution. Okay, this person thinks they know more than other people, thinks they know more than they do. Okay, there's nothing you can teach me. Okay, use caution. We'll come back to that. 4, ego part 4. This is the T bar. the cross on that letter T. Okay, in all these American handwriting videos, you say, well, what did you do? What positive changes did you make to your handwriting? I raised my T-bar. I raised my T-bar. I raised my T-bar. Okay, it becomes a very obvious thing to say, but actually, the T-bar represents the goals that you set for yourself. Think about it as like the bar of the high jump. You know, how high you've got to jump to get over it. Okay, there is also a bit of a relationship to the bar in the F. Okay, not quite the same, but you know, there's a relationship there. But anyway, if your T is crossed midway through the letter T and is in line with your middle zone letters, look at the hump on my H, back up the top here, look at the hump on my H and see how my T is at the top of that middle zone. Okay, the goals that I set myself are achievable, at least according to me. Okay, and my middle zone and my humdrum, I can achieve the things that I need to do from day to day. Okay, if your T is lower than that, that's a real self-esteem issue. Okay, and to, you know, not leave you second guessing, the reason why you've got to be cautious with someone whose T is taller than their H is that quite often they do the opposite from what I've done. Their T bar is actually much lower. So their goals that they set for themselves are very low. They think they know more than they do, but actually they're not really achieving what they need to do from day to day. So where the T bar comes right to the top here, and sometimes you even see sort of where the T bar isn't even attached to the rest of the T. These people fly off and their goals are set somewhere in space whilst they're standing on Earth. They don't relate what they want to achieve to their present circumstances. And so they can appear to be unrealistic. Sometimes it pays to be unrealistic, but most of the time it can be a frustration to other people around them. As if, for goodness sake, you know, we can't afford the house we've got. Why are you talking about buying a villa in Spain? Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. Yeah. Where the T-bar goes backwards, that's clinging to the past. Okay. The goals I set are basically based on how I achieved last week or 10 years ago. And particularly if your T-bar is low and your T is much smaller than your tall letters, that could be an issue. Where your T crosses over some of the next letters, like for instance here, is enthusiasm. Okay, and again, you've got to be a bit careful, but look at my T's in setting, where I've crossed them both, because I'm, you know, quite enthusiastic about what I'm talking about here. So whoosh, cross over, but look how that flicks up into a point towards the end. And again, I've tried to do it here. It's not very easy to do with an Apple Pencil. You can see it more on a piece of paper. If the ink trails away, but you get just this little flicky point at the end, that is a little bit of temper, a little bit of sarcasm. Okay, it's not violent temper. It's just you know, this person will defend themselves against oppressors by using their tongue. So basically, that's all I have to say on the letter T. We are getting near the end of this, to be honest. Okay, creativity, the letter K, as in the K in take. Okay, when I say creativity, I've put here ABCD. That stands for above and beyond the call of duty. A phrase used by Asda stroke Walmart once upon a time. Creativity, in other words, how do you feel that your efforts to do nice things for other people are appreciated? How do you feel that your efforts to make a nice meal, to perhaps arrange the house, to, you know, dress up your bedroom and that sort of thing, how do you feel that they're appreciated by other people around you? Okay, yes, you know, when we say creativity, we do mean, you know, playing an instrument, knitting, making arts and crafts and drawing and whatnot else. But it can also be at a level that is accessed by all of us. Okay, how do we feel our efforts to show ourselves off in the most creative way towards someone else are appreciated? Okay, now the basic K starts at the top, lands on the line, and then you've got this little kick with a point on, like an arrow. Yeah. And that arrow, where the point joins to the K, that arrow shows that we've hit our target. Okay? Imagine it's Cupid firing his arrow, and that's landed right in dead centre. It's hit the point. I went out of my way to get home, make a beautiful meal, and my family liked it. In the cursive K, you can see again that point lands at its target on the stick. And it's basic, intuitive. You just like to do things. You sit at the piano, play your exam pieces, whatever, and someone says, well, that was nice. And you're appreciated. Where the point of the letter K sticks out a little bit. See, it goes right into the target. Whoosh, that arrow, Cupid's arrow, whoosh, boom, 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 and it's landed right into the target. That person is a very persuasive person. They'll use whatever creative means they have at their disposal. Particularly with the cursive K, these people will be able to zone out and fill their performance with such emotion and palpability that it really will ignite the audience that's listening to it. It's still intuitive. It's because we want to, out of the goodness of our hearts. See, I've drawn a good heart there. A K in the middle zone, okay, again, lacks intuition, but what they do, they feel they're appreciated for, because the arrow still lands on the stick of the K, okay? So the efforts that they put in for other people are appreciated. They feel, that in their day-to-day survival life, I did the washing, I managed to get Johnny's football kit ready for tomorrow, and he was happy, so... that's a very much more survivalist kind of thing, without this sort of, going up into the clouds and, doing something that's just a little bit out of the ordinary because I want to and whatever. The middle zone K is because I have to, but I'm appreciated. Okay, can you see in the next example, the fourth one down, where the point of the K does not reach its target? Okay, this person does not feel that other people appreciate their efforts. It's the same with the cursive K, where the point doesn't reach the target. Okay, they feel that their efforts are underappreciated. If you see that with someone, then just go out of your way to reassure them a little bit. Love you, miss you. Basically, give a few well done, pats on the back. Okay, the K with the loop in it, again, like the H, and also like the L as well, which will come up later. It's reaching up into the spiritual, understanding that what you create on earth comes from a different plane, from somewhere up in the spiritual, and somehow or other it's given to me to express this desire to you. Where there are loops in that arrow, as it were, see how in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 one down, and the 7th one down, where the arrow hits its target, makes a loop. That's a little bit of confusion about intent. If you're making tomato soup and you fill it with so many flavours that the tomato is almost unrecognisable there, then that's the kind of thing, people, it was lovely, but what was it supposed to be? It's the audience being confused about the performer, in quotes, intentions there. Yeah? Okay, that's different from the underappreciated one. The underappreciated one would cook a meal for someone, and the response would be, oh, what do you want? What have you done wrong? Yeah? Whereas the loopy confusion about intent K is basically, yes, I appreciate what you do, I don't fully understand what you mean. Kenny Everett had that in his signature. Kenny Everett was a British comedian who was so lovable. We loved him. He's sadly passed on now, but look him up on YouTube. His sense of humour was so silly, but it could be taken as very irreverent. And there were times where he used that irreverence to deliberately sabotage his career, where he worked as a DJ on radio stations and got himself sacked on purpose. But there was always this element of society that perhaps didn't fully understand what his comedy was all about. For most people, he persuaded them. Look at the persuasive element of that K, where it goes right into the target and comes out again. But there was always an element that really didn't understand what he was about. and that led him into tricky situations. Where the kick is more like a curve, or the arrow, as it were, is more like a curve, it shows, you know, this real desire for an audience. And where it doesn't quite meet, okay, this is a creative person, but, you know, perhaps they're just a little bit shy in front of an audience, don't really want to play. I know I'm great at playing the piano, everybody, but, you know, when there's people there, I know I'm going to cock it up and make mistakes and whatever, you know, so I feel that I'm not going to be appreciated by my audience, okay? The caution, GTH, stands for go to hell. The go to hell K. I have put everything on hold for you. You knew I wanted to go out to the cinema last night with my friends, but I stayed at home and did what you wanted to do, and look how I'm treated. Go to hell. Yeah, whatever I do for you, you do not appreciate it. So again, if you see that, and it's characterized by this kind of aggressive flick up, and then the arrow goes boom. You see the arrow goes down, boom. Yeah, diagonal arrow, boom, boom. Where it goes up, down, like that, that is a red rag to a bull. This is someone that, you know, whatever I do for all the people in this house, they don't appreciate it. They just take me for granted, blah, 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 blah. Go to hell. So be aware of them, yeah? Be nice to them, give them a cuddle. But just don't tell them why you're giving them a cuddle, because they'll probably break down and cry in front of you, you know. Where that K, and it's sometimes, you know, again, it's quite difficult to control the size of the K and to control the size of the arrow, as it were, and it starts to look like a capital. Again, it's as I said right at the beginning of this talk, if you can remember that far. This is somebody who, like, you know, George Harrison, needs constant sources of inspiration. I've called it 50,000 volts. Yeah, if they don't get that 50,000 volts up them, then they'll just carry on cruising and cruising and cruising and cruising and cruising. Okay, and that's showing that they need that boom, that bolt of inspiration to come out of the blue in the middle of them cruising, 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 before they'll actually go and, you know, achieve their best. Engaging the brain, the L, important, but you'll begin to see that, you know, the principles. This is actually quite easy. I think, because I'm coming from the top, my brain, as it were, I think, I do. Okay, there's half an I. Here's an I in the word silly. There, he says half an I there. So that's I do. I think, I act. I think, I take. I might ask first if I don't know. I might look to authority because I'm, you know, this is up in my brain. Yeah. What does my brain say do? Oh, perhaps, don't know, ask. Yeah, I think, I do. Okay, it's quite efficient as well. It's quick, boom, 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 boom. But it's putting the brain in gear first, then doing. Okay, if that brain means that you have to go and ask someone, then you'll ask. Okay, or you'll consult. You might even look it up in a dictionary. Okay, there's a bit more based on experience with the cursive. Yeah, you know, I remember from last week, I think about that, I do. So it's basically about planning and experience. Okay, and it's also about, there's a giving element as well. Okay, it's a bit more self-reliant because of how you've remembered in the past. Yeah, here's our spiritual, handing it over to God. But if, you know, this loopy L is showing that you're having a nod again at upper realms, at your spiritual side, and how that's informing your actions, your thoughts and actions. Okay, stacking the traits. Here's some letters that have come from a person that I analysed a little while ago. Okay, I'm obviously not going to identify them apart from the fact that it was male. One of the things that first struck me, in fact, two of the things that first struck me here, was the M and the F. This M, okay, this is in the word famous, yeah? I don't want to make a fool of myself in front of you. I am a very self-reliant person. I rely on my initiative, I act. Yeah? My T is much taller than my H. So again, my estimation of my knowledge is higher than most people's. My self-esteem, on the other hand, is quite low. I do listen to other people, sometimes, but I don't think before I do. because I'm very sensitive. I'm very sensitive. I don't think that loopy thing was even quite as much as that. It was a barely detectable loop. But, you know, that barely detectable with everything else, don't want to make a fool of myself, whatever, meant that this person really did not take very kindly to the criticism that he got. And it wasn't actually criticism, it was just, you know, in a whole body of positives that I said about this person's writing. They picked up on that one because they were so sensitive. You know, I don't ask first because I'm frightened to make a fool of myself in public. I just do. If I ask, I will look, you know, silly, as it were. I've got enough nous and self-reliance to work it out on my initiative, okay? And I'll be very sensitive if you pull me up on this, yeah? So that's how you can stack the traits. And, you know, it's not a, you know, it's everyone has a defense mechanism, you know? What do you do when you're put into a situation and you don't know what to do? How do you respond? You know, it's just how people are, okay? It's not necessarily to take it as some sort of great bit of criticism there and to get sensitive about it. It's just a defence mechanism. We all have them. I'm a sarcastic bitch, you know? Boom. It's my defence mechanism, yeah? Relationships and base desires. The why loop, okay? While I remember, when I was discussing the D, I said, you know, if I wanted confirmation about someone's disposition to act aggressively, I said I would look at the Y's and G loops, okay? Because the loops here apply equally to G's, J's, even Z's. This person here, who has no loop in their Y at all, and it just comes straight down, or a G that looks like a Q, for example, this person here, this antisocialness, that would be perhaps a signifier that perhaps coupled with that D, there may well be some sort of verbal aggression, yeah? Maybe with a Y, with that kind of what we call the felon's claw there, I would be looking there and seeing, yeah? I'd be looking also for stingers in letters as well, okay? To see whether or not these people would be, you know, whether there was any kind of propensity for them to act violently or speak violently, yeah? Okay, so it's a case of, you know, as I say, stack the traits. So going back to the beginning here, here's our basic contextual why, okay? It's basically you've got this strong middle zone, it comes down, the loop comes up from here and feeds into the middle zone. So our base desires and our relationships here are satisfied and they feed into our ordinary day-to-day life, okay? I get satisfaction from my relationships and that feeds into my life. I'm happy with my friends, yeah? I know that mum's there, whatever, do you know what I mean? And that feeds into my life, okay? These people are generous with their time, generous with their friendships, because they need that friendship. That loop is showing how much you need other people and how much they feed into your life. And the fact that they do feed into your life is showing that you're getting satisfaction from them, okay? Where the Y doesn't close up here, this is, okay, the length of the descender. Can you see how this one almost lands at the bottom of the next line compared to the first Y where it's sort of medium, it's sort of like a medium-sized drop. You know, you could walk underneath there. You'd have to duck to walk underneath this one. Do you see what I mean? The length of that descender shows your sexual desire. Okay, these people with long lines here, in an adult, that would indicate, you know, their sexual desire. Okay, more independent. Yeah, perhaps their relationships or their sexual desire are unfulfilled. Yeah. But they're good with money, okay? All right, this person, number one here, is not so good with money, yeah, because of the kind of generosity with their time and everything. You know, these, you know, they're quite happy to leave a few things undone, as it were. Where am I looking at? Yeah, look at where I've written the word kinky here, okay? This is coming at the end of a sentence, okay? And my Y loops up here and sort of hangs off into the ether. Okay, and that indicates that I am not particularly good with money. Okay, it indicates that I have, you know, that there are matters left in the air, as it were. There's an overdraft to be paid off, for example, or there's a credit card that I'm quite happy to max out on. Yeah, this person, that where I've written sexually there, that is, you know, someone that is good with money, because there's no the loop just finishes, or sorry, the hook just finishes. Yeah, and that person there doesn't want to owe anything, doesn't want anybody to owe them anything. You know, doesn't necessarily mean that they're not generous. Yeah, our antisocial person here is probably not particularly generous. Yeah, this person is generous, but they don't want to feel either that they're in anyone's debt or that anyone is in their debt. Okay, this is getting quite confusing, but just I think the basic thing here to do is to read it through. And let me tell you a story. Okay, a friend of mine a few weeks ago showed me the writing of another friend of hers, and this person did both examples of 1 and 2, yeah, where that Y was finished and feeding into their life, showing fulfilled relationships, and the Y was showing unfulfilled relationships. And just like now, I was getting mixed messages, okay, confusing messages about this person and their fulfillment with the relationships, because I was standing next to her friend. I don't know the person from Adam. My friend, yeah, showed me this person's writing, yeah, and said, oh, she's just got married. So I say, well, look, why aren't there more of these fulfilled loops here then? And she said, well, she's just got married. They've had to relocate for the husband's job. The husband's job means that he's away most of the time. So she's in a place away from her family, doesn't know anyone, and only sees her husband for short periods at a time before he has to go off again. And yeah, then it made sense. You can see basically the shorter that stem, the lower the sexual desire. The sort of diagonal Y here, okay, this is determination, this is highly independent, okay. I would exercise a lot of caution where you're getting lower social desire and where you're getting this kind of, there's no loop here, there's no generosity loop at all. This is a highly independent person that is determined and will, and that struggles on, yeah. And this antisocialness here, okay, exercise caution with these, okay, because again, particularly in the sexual side of things, there may be something that's gone on that hasn't been dealt with. And, so again, you're not at a party, you're a therapist and you're discussing those. The kind of pointy loop here is Goebbels or something like that, that had very, very pronounced diagonal loops and pointy loops in his writing. And, it did show, an amount of sexual curiosity, especially if you go down a long way, that stem goes down a long way and then it comes up again and goes into a point. That's, sexual curiosity. Coupled with stingers, then you may be able to make an assumption that someone was perhaps gay. The felon's claw, okay, because of the Y's connection with money, this person here will have every penny off you. If you split the bill in a restaurant, double check it, because they'll probably add an extra tenner onto your side of the bill, as it were. Check your wallet when you've left them. Do not go into business with them. Where you get all sorts of kind of tangly Y's here, that's a very exaggerated desire to explore alternative sexuality. Okay, I've put there kinky, being flippant, but it doesn't mean that. It's just I don't want to judge people based on their sexual habits, basically. But this person here has areas of their sexuality which they're very keen to explore and that might be considered alternative by people. Okay, the Z, as in back to the zoo. We're nearly there. I don't know much about the Z, to be honest. No one has ever said a Z done like this or a Z done like that means this. Okay, but I'm going by what I know. Look at my H's, people. Going by what I know, if the top part points a long way into the past, this person is preoccupied with the past. This person here wants to forget the past and get on with the future. Okay, it's such an uncommon letter, you rarely see it, hence we've got one in our sentence here. Okay, you do sometimes see loops on there, particularly in cursive styles. If you do, then, you know, apply the same sort of tactics to as you would for G's, Y's and K's. The W, okay, as we've said, those zigzaggy straights, if you do your W's as zigzaggy, you're efficient, you're analytical, you're a quick learner. Okay, just like the upside down M. Yeah, our lovely wavy kind, methodological, whoa, lovely, beautiful, beautiful. Takes their time, but it's usually very, very kind. You know, will deal with you and treat you wonderfully. The efficient person, but I ain't got time for that. But you know, okay, a little bit like that. Okay, I've done a zigzaggy W with a hook going back and a wavy, wavy one. Okay, which shows some guilt about the past, and again, exercise caution about that. The signature is voluntary. It is the mask or the face that you put on in front of the world. Okay? All of the things that I've spent the last 2 hours talking to you about are essentially involuntary. They happen anyway. It would actually take quite a lot to change them. Okay? And it is, you know, again, if you're going to change it via changing your handwriting, it's a heck of a lot of practice. Okay, the signature is the voluntary face that you put onto the world, and you can change that. Okay, don't worry about your bank. You can go to your bank and you can say, look, I want to change my signature, and they'll probably ask to see, you know, 5 examples of your old signature and 10 examples of your new signature, but you can change it. Okay, nowadays in the sort of days of contactless and Apple Pay and God knows what else, we hardly ever do our signature. Okay, so you know, you can change your signature if you feel you need to. Okay, and because it is voluntary, the effects that it will have are far more significant. Okay, so I've got some questions and answers here. Is the signature similar to their normal writing? Then that's what you see is what you get. WYSIWYG kind of person. Yeah. Is it legible, but in a different style? It's that person is, you know, honest, you know, open, they'll deal with you in an honest, respectful way, but they're very private and they're not going to put on, you know, they're not going to hang out their dirty washing in front of you. Justin Bieber's signature. Justin Bieber, from, you know, the little bit I've seen of his writing, is a middle zone printer, which is basically a survivalist, but not particularly mature. Okay, and then suddenly his signature is in, you know, old-fashioned American style cursive. And so he's putting on this very grown-up, mature aspect because the fact that this is a child that's really had to grow up in public, and that's what he's showing there. You know, this child, you know, the immature, printed, middle zone, boom, 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 boom. You know, getting on with it, survive from day to day, and then suddenly, you know, this impression that I have to put on for other people, and you know, you can see, you know, he's had to grow up and do an awful lot of growing up in public. Yeah, do they underline their signature? That is self-affirming. Yeah, pretend that my name was the signature. You can see how that line underneath makes me show how proud I am. Is it scored through or is it looped? Yeah, these people are self-effacing. You should never put any kind of loop or line through your signature. Okay, it is a complete negation of who you are. It restricts your mental growth. It shows that really and truthfully you wish you weren't there. Never cross your name out. Never cross your name out. You know, again, caution. you know, caution. You know, perhaps, you know, putting the line underneath the signature shows how proud you are of yourself. So, you know, think about, you know, that might make you feel a bit better about yourself. You know, increase your self-esteem. You know, couch it that way. Yeah. If it's illegible, then they're fiercely private people. Okay. You know, again, we've talked about the doctor, you know, and how they've got to, they have got to protect their inner sanctum for whatever reason. Some people feel like that. Nothing good or bad about it, but they're not going to reveal too much about themselves. Does the signature contain initials? B blogs, Bill blogs, or even a different initial. W blogs. Bill is actually short for William, isn't it? Okay. So the person that is, you know, if you know, you're a relaxed, informal person, and you really, you know, you treat people the same regardless of who they are. You're not going to put on airs and graces for the bank manager, you know, and then talk down to the bin man. You know, you'll deal with them the same way. And you're going to call yourself Bill Blogs. When you start wanting to be more formal, you know, and put on this formal mask to the public, you know, keeping our distance from you a little bit, then you'll suddenly start putting B blogs. You know, if you want, you know, further distance, W blogs. So it's an endeavour really to be more formal in public. Caution, again, you know, say no to this if you want, but, you know, I think you may be a bit closer to your dad. You know, if you don't want to answer that question, then don't. You know, people whose surnames are nice and clear generally are, you hear people say, oh, she's a real daddy's girl, for example. It's that kind of thing. You know, it could be due to, you know, perhaps, you know, a perceived feeling of being treated more unfairly by one parent, or, you know, a complete breakdown of relationship by one parent as well. So be careful. But I think if the signature's nice and readable, it kind of shows happiness with that particular parent. Likewise, if it's only the first name that is really readable, and then the surname goes into squiggles, possibly they're closer to their mother. If the signature slants upwards, the way that, if you can remember 6 million years ago when I started out this presentation, I signed Bill Blog's name going upwards. That is a definite optimism. Yeah. If it slopes down the other way, it's pessimism. But again, be very cautious about how you phrase that, okay? Because you might know in your mind that that person probably wishes that they were 6 feet under. But there's no way that you can, you know, kind of, you know, say that to them unless you're a professional, and, you know, a mental health professional or something like that. But it would give you kind of signs, and you might be able to then, in your approach to that person, kind of be affirming, be there for them, maybe check up on them a bit more often that they're all right, and that kind of thing. Okay, this is where I do end on that note of caution, because the whole thing really is a note of caution. You cannot make sweeping judgments. It is a case of taking the whole thing holistically. I do apologise for bleating on for quite so long, but I hope that that really is the most interesting video I've ever made. Thank you very, very much for listening, and you can wake up now.